Hey guys, and welcome back. Let's continue off from where we were last time, where we just finished these exploded views, and now we're going to do a bit more with our drawings. So we're going to look at the configurations of our sub-assembly here. As we can see as well in the example, we've actually got a configuration here which talks about the before and after of this pivot pin. And this is explaining a little bit of the process of how it would be created. So configurations, let's talk about configurations. Configurations is a tool within assembly files and within part files that enables you to have different versions within the same file. Now, how that might work in a part file, let's open up this form bracket, for instance. You could have a configuration here, which we do, which is a flat pattern. Now, in this configuration, this flat pattern feature has been unsuppressed. And having parts or features that are suppressed or unsuppressed is one of the main ways you have configurations in part files. In assemblies, you can have things like number of parts, you might have mates, you might have linear patterns or circular patterns suppressed or unsuppressed, and that can make a difference to the assembly. This is the flat pattern configuration. So we'll go back to the standard configuration and let me show you here. We'll create another configuration just to test. So to create a configuration, we right click add configuration, and you can give it a name. We'll say test. Now in this configuration, we're going to grab this hole up the top and we're going to actually click on the cut extrude to. We're going to click this little button here which says suppress. So I just click on that or right click on that feature. I can click suppress and that hole disappears. What's important to note is it has not been deleted. The feature remains, but the feature, as you can see, is grayed out. Now if I go back to my default configuration by double clicking, you can see the hole is back. So with your configurations you can create, let's say you might do a range of furniture, you might do a table, and you might have a table of 3 different sizes, a small, medium and large. Because one of the other things you can create or manage in configurations are things like sketches and dimensions. So if I edited this sketch and I clicked on this number, 10.2, double click, this little icon here for configurations, I can say in this configuration, I want that size to actually be 3. Let's just say a really small hole and press OK. So in my test configuration, it is 3. In my default configuration, I'll have to edit it. I didn't hit this little button here, or I didn't save it. This one is all configurations, but I want it to be this configuration. It's going to be 10.2. All right, let's try that again. So flick back to test, and there we go. So we've got one configuration with a tiny hole, one with a big hole. All right, so it's a very quick intro to configurations. Now what we're going to do in our sub-assembly is actually create a configuration of this pivot pin. And for this, what we're going to show is a before and after version. So we're going to go to our configurations here, and we're going to add a new configuration, which will be after. This is what the after version is going to look like, and that is exactly what we've got now. All right? We're going to create another configuration, which is before. This is the one that we're going to change. In this configuration, we're going to make some changes to this shape. So there's a couple of ways to do that. I'm just going to play around. I can't remember exactly how I did it last time. I'm going to use the delete face tool, and I'm going to select this face, press OK, and you can see it's deleted that. It's basically got rid of that edge and merged it with this one. I'm going to press move face, and I'm just going to move this down 5 millimeters. And if I go to my front view, we can see a before version and an after version, and that looks pretty good. Just move this in a little bit. Okay, so all we're doing here, we're creating 2 versions of the one part, saved within the same file, just different configurations before and after. Save this and go back to your sub-assembly. We're going to create the same 2 configurations in the sub-assembly. So here we're going to create one. We've already got this default one. We can rename this to after. This will be our after version in the drawings. Now we need to create a configuration that is the before version. In the before version, what we're going to do is select part 01. You can see this little drop down that comes up. We're going to click there and we're going to click on the before version, make sure it's for this configuration only and press the tick. There we go. And we swap back to the after configuration, and now you can see there's two different versions of the sub-assembly. The other thing that we want to do is copy the exploded view that we've got here, all right? We actually don't need that exploded view in the after version, we need it in the before version. You can copy exploded views. To copy an exploded view, you must be in the active configuration. That means you must be in the one with the tick, and then all you do is click and drag to another configuration, and it's going to copy it. Now I can change to the before configuration, and underneath that is the same exploded view. Beautiful. Save, and then Control Tab. I'm going to close this part and go back to my drawing. And now, what are we trying to do? We're trying to create a before and an after to show how this part is made. For those curious, the idea behind this is that you have a straight pivot pin that goes through, and then you have a forming tool that presses up, squashes the bottom of that pivot pin across the bottom of the washer, and that is what holds the whole assembly together. So we're going to first Control C, Control V. So we've got two drawing views. Then we're going to select the first view, and under reference configuration, click before and exploded. That's it. Very neat example of how configurations can be used and how they can be shown in the drawing. So reference configuration, and then the exploded box just below that as well. All right, so that is configurations. Now let's get into our next task. It's creating this bill of materials at the top of the screen. We'll start with the bill of materials in the sub-assembly. It's a little bit easier to control, and then we'll do the large one in the general assembly. Okay, so bill of materials is a table that is brought into your sheet and is referencing one of the drawing views on your sheet. If you have only one file that's on your sheet, in this case, we have my sub-assembly file. Yes, I have it in different configurations, but all of my views here are of the sub-assembly. The bill of materials will automatically, pick up one of those views when we drop it and contain information about that. So, how do we add a bill of materials? We click on Annotations, Tables, Bill of Materials, and then see the information message here. Select a drawing view to specify the model. So you get to choose. I'm going to click here on Drawing View 14, and then the settings for the bill of materials are on the left. We'll just go through these. So there is a template for the bill of materials. We're using the standard one. The BOM type can be top level, parts, or indented. Our sub-assembly is very simple. It's only got 3 parts, so we can leave it at parts only or top level only to be exactly the same. Where this is different is in our general assembly, where we have a sub-assembly in that general assembly. If it was top level only, then you would not see the 3 parts, part 1, 2, and 4, as part of the sub-assembly. You'd just see the line for the sub-assembly. And then if we scroll down, so configurations, you can use configurations with bills and materials as well. We'll just leave it on the after configuration. And for the border, I like to just make a little thicker border for the outside, and then we press the tick. And this is our bill of materials. It will come in at our cursor, and it will typically snap to lines in our sheet format, right? So you can see in the example I've got on the drawing, it's going from one side to the other. You can do that if it works for your formatting, but you don't have to. Now I've just zoomed into this corner to drop it. Once I've clicked and dropped it, now it's on the page and I can edit it. So there's a couple of things that we want to do for the bill of materials. We're going to add a column for material, and we're going to add a column for finish. To add a column, you right click on one of the headings of the column. So C, letter C, right click. I'm going to insert a column on the right, and I'm going to select the property. These are all the different properties that we have in our files. I'm going to select material, and I'm going to select the one that is in all caps, because I think that is the one that is referencing my part files. And I'll go back and have a look at those in a minute. And then I'm going to right click again and insert another column, this time for finish. All right. Now we're pretty close to spanning the whole width, so I'm just going to click here on this bottom box on the right and drag, and you can see how I can resize the whole thing. Just going to drag it all the way across to there. All right, now, so what other things can we do with the bill of materials? Well, we can add information. There's two ways of adding information to your bill of materials. The first way, if I open up part 1 and I go File, Save As, in this file name here, part 01, you see the box below it, Description. You can add a description for that part. This part is the pivot pin. I'm going to save that file. Yes, I'm replacing the existing part. I'm going to Control-Tab back to the drawing. Now, it doesn't show there automatically, but once I press Rebuild, that pivot pin text comes up. Okay. So that's one way of adding text to the bill of materials. 3 ways to do it. Second way is to double-click in a cell and type information. So number 2 is the washer. Now, I'm going to see if this this entry method actually will insert that description to the washer. To check that, I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to open the part, I'm going to go File, Save As, and yes, it has. You can see here, description, washer, it's put it in there for me. So that works. That is another method of introducing text. This one, let's see if this one does the same thing. So in Finish, it will. I think we can see it's kind of got a blue line there. I think it will add that finish. Let's test. Let's just type test there. Rebuild. I'm going to save. And where I'm going to see that information is if I open this part and then I click on the right of the screen here in this Custom Properties box. Custom Properties, and you can see, I'll just hide this for a second, a little bit smaller. These are the custom properties of the files that I was working with, which already had these custom properties available for you to use. This is not the same for all default files, so I'm going to have to show you how to create these custom properties. But that information, that test that has been inserted here into my custom properties, so you can just type that in when you have a bill of materials that's set up and linked the way that our drawings have been. I'm going to change that. I'm going to type that in there, finish as natural. I'm going to press apply. I'm going to save it, Control-Tab, go back to my drawing, rebuild, and that's going to update that text. Okay, great. Now, in the first lesson of the drawings, we talked about document templates. To explain what's happened, I have to show you my default document template for parts, which is a company part. And if I open up that file and I look at custom properties, you can see these custom properties already here. All right. That may be different to your files. So what I'm going to do with the custom properties is that's going to be shown in a later tutorial. This is a bit of an advanced topic, how to link everything up with your document templates, have your custom properties set. You have to do that in another application that would be installed with SolidWorks, carry things across, fill them out. So we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to do it in a very old, simple style, which is importing text straight into your bill of materials. So I'm going to save this file here. And in our bill of materials, you can see already that we've got the item number, the part number. We just need to add in the description, the material, and the finish. Now, if you don't have custom properties set up in your part file, when you double click here to add information, you should receive a pop-up warning you that this information is linked to your part. Okay, you would usually see that kind of error. In which case, you can input information and it will override whatever other information that file already had. Now, if you don't get any error, let's not worry about it. What really matters here is the information that's being communicated to your supplier or client or otherwise. Remember, it's all about communication. And the information that we're putting in this bill of materials for this project doesn't matter. It's just about the process of putting something in there. Just to show you how these materials are linked, okay, I'm going to open these parts and I'm going to right-click on Material, Edit Material, and I'm going to select a material from the SolidWorks materials here. So let's just say it's a stainless steel. That's applied that material. When I close and go back to the bill of materials, you can see it's been applied there. All right, so materials, applications, looking at weights, custom properties, mass properties. Again, it's an advanced subject and we will put that into a standalone tutorial at a later date. At another time. All right. The main thing about bill of materials is just that we're getting on the page, identifying our parts and showing you the basics of how to edit it. Now you can do basic formatting changes as well, such as like centering text, and you can also click and drag lines to resize. It can be a bit finicky, but you just want to get something that looks relatively like the drawing that we've got here, the example drawing. Okay, so that's the bill of materials on our sub-assembly. We'll save that, and we're going to do the same thing on our first page on the BOM. So this one, we're going to, again, annotation tables, bill of materials. Let's select that main view, and we're going to go top level only and press OK. And we're going to zoom in to this corner, just drop it in the top corner, and then we're going to resize. So we're going to click and drag and add in another 2 columns like we did on the last one. So we're going to right click, go insert column on the right. This will be material, and then another one, insert column right, finish. All right, now that is oversized. I'm gonna, the part number box, I don't want to make that any smaller, but everything else I do. So I'm just going to click and drag in a few of them. Description doesn't need to be that big. Finish doesn't need to be that big. And then I'm happy with that position there. I can just click on this box, and now that is nicely resized. All right, so same thing as we did before. We want to input those descriptions into our sub-assembly. So I'm going to go through and add them here. Reinforcement plates. I'm going to assume, well, let's do the identifiers before we put that other text in. The finishes I'm just going to leave blank. Okay, I think you understand how to add that in now. Materials, I'll probably go in and add that in between classes. That's it. Yeah, bill of materials. Done. Now, doing the bill of materials is one thing, but one of the key reasons you have that bill of materials on a page is to actually identify what the parts are in your assembly or sub-assembly. So let's go back to our sub-assembly page, and you can see what we have on this section view are what's called balloons. The numbers 1, 2, and 3, and those balloons are linked to different parts of that sub-assembly. Okay. So we're going to add some balloons. That is done on the annotation toolbar. There is a button here for balloon, and what happens is you have a preview around your cursor. You hover over either an edge. If you select an edge, you will get an arrow. If you select a face, you'll get a dot. So I'm going to select all 3 parts. So you click once on the part, click once to drop the balloon, and then you select your next part. And 3. And that's done. Now those parts, those numbers link to the items in your bill of materials. Now, what I like to do with my bill of materials, my BOMs, now I'm let's just say I treat them a bit nicer, is try and get everything lined up neatly. And there's a tool you can use to clean that up even more, which is the magnetic line tool. I click and drag, and it's going to connect all 3 on that line and space them evenly like that. Okay, very nice. Now let's do the same thing on our main bill of materials. So back to sheet 1, and there's a few more tools to know with this. So there is a button here for auto balloon. Now we can click that, and it's actually going to give us a preview while we can edit the properties of those auto balloons. So we can pick, for instance, a side for all the balloons to go to. So I can pick the right. I can insert a magnetic line, and it's going to put a line between all of them like we just did on that sub-assembly page. I can press ignore multiple instances. So what this means is where I've got 2 of the same thing, I can have a balloon for each of those same things. Okay, so one for each nut or bolt, or I can ignore them. Now I'm going to leave that on ignore. And then leader attachment. If I want edges with the arrows, I leave this one, or if I want faces, I press this one. Now the one thing with the auto feature is it's not always going to select the best part, okay, or the best face for where it drops that attachment, but you can manually change that afterwards. Your balloon settings are set by the default properties of the document. You can change it here. So you saw hexagons on my example. That's just me playing around, but typically they're just in circles. But once you're done there, hit the tick. And then we'll do a few things with these. We'll drag them out. We will reposition. Now, number 1, this time is for the sub-assembly. So any one of those 3 parts is fine. Number 4 is linked to part 06, which is the bush. You see it's right on the edge here. Let's just put it here so it's more clear what's connecting to. We have number 3, which is on a reinforcing plate or side plate. Sorry, is that right? I think we've got the text around the wrong way in these ones. I think part 05 is the reinforcing plate. So we can just go in here and we can just change that. Side plate, reinforcement plate. Okay, so number 3 is on the side plate. Let's just move it to the one on this side. So that line's just not going as far. Number 6 is the bolt. That's fine. Let's just move it to the end. And I can't see a number 7. I don't know why I didn't do that. So we're going to add one in. That's fine too. Number 2 here is the side plate. Let's position that up here. And then what you can do with the magnetic balloons is click to drag and swap them around. And then the last one, number 5, that can be our pulley wheel. Leave it there. So we need to add another balloon. Let's click balloon. Let's click here on, let's say, the nut, and we can drop the number in there, and then it's space the rest of them equally. Okay, looking pretty good. Now, what I like to see with my balloons is, or remember, what we're trying to do here with communication is make things as clear and easy to understand for the reader, the viewer, as possible. So what's easy to understand? Numbers that are all jumbled up, or numbers that are in a sequential order matching our bill of materials. So our bill of materials starts with our sub-assembly and then goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's try and do the same thing with our balloons. So what we might do is move number 2 up here and flip it. And same with number 3. We can go here and flip that. Number 4, maybe it moves to this side of the bush. Number 5, maybe it moves to this side of the wheel. And there we go. Now it's much more clear. Just space that out. I'm going to uncheck size outline. Okay, and now we have a really nice pattern for our balloons matching our BOM. And I'm going to hit save. So now we can see that number 7 is our M10 nut. So here's the example I was talking about earlier. So this cell value is linked to a property in a read-only model. Interesting. Do you want to break the link and override the value of the BOM? We can just say yes, and then we can add in the text that we want. M10 nut. We're going to do the same thing here. It's going to give us the same warning. M10 bolt. Very good. All right. Okay, that BOM is filled out now with enough detail. So that is our balloons and our bill of materials, our customized BOMs. We are now ready to start to update all of our drawing views to make our drawings look really nice and neat and communicate any other information that we're missing. So here we're going to start to work through page by page and actually reposition and change some of the standards just to suit, what we want to see. So one of the first things we're going to change is all our view labels here are huge. So if I click on this section view, I can see that the text size of this section is 6.35 and the view label is 3.5. There are international standards for text sizes and font sizes. Another time, I'll take you through where to find that information. To customize, we're going to right click on the top of our drawings and go document properties. And we're going to go into the drafting standards here, and we're going to go through some of these fonts and view labels, like section view, and we go the font standard for the label there. I'm going to make that 3.5. Yeah, and so we're modifying this drafting standard, all right? Because we just want to get some consistency in our text and our information. So our detail views, we're going to do the same thing, where the label detail does not need to be that big. Neither does all those things looking okay. And annotations, 3.5, that looks pretty good. Notes, font size, 3.5. And section views, the labels, yeah, everything now should be standard. Press OK. Cool. These are still huge. That is the cutting line font for section views. So we're going to try and tweak that as well. So back in the document properties, views, section arrow text, 3.5. Good. And then detail circle text, 3.5. All right, so now we've got a standard across here, across everything. Right, that looks a bit neater. So clean up. Let's go through some cleanups and layout stuff. And then our very last step will be sort of dimensions and annotation. All right, so on this page, your view label that comes in automatically for the section view, you can click and drag that around. Just move it up a little bit. And the section view itself, this cutting line, it actually doesn't need to be that long. you can reposition the letter A like this, and you can click the line and just drag it up. Sometimes it's a bit tricky, but just drag it up and drag it down so it doesn't extend as far. Now the section view will get these red hashes on it. You need to rebuild, but once that's done, everything's just a bit more compact and it's a bit easier to reposition. Now this page looks a bit bare, so we're going to add another projected view, but we don't want to just add the same view that we're going to have on this page here with that isometric view. So instead we'll add a slightly inverted view, and we'll change that custom scale to 1 to 2 for that one, so it just fits in neatly over here. All right, save that. The positioning of that page now is looking pretty good. At some point, we will have to come into add in these details here. So the description hasn't been pulled in, and I think it's because we don't have a description for our General Assembly file. So let's open that up, and we're right here. We do not have a description or part number. Let's create a part number. So we're just going to make it up. CBCO 0001, the revision 01, the description General Assembly. And we may as well add in this information here. So that's going to be me, drawn today, and I'm approving it, checking it, just to show you what it looks like. Save, close. Okay, so we can see these details have now been added in, and what I feel is probably going to happen is that that will flow throughout the entire drawing set. Now we can change this. I'm going to show you how to do that. But first we'll just push on to the next sheet. So this page, the layout's looking really good. Save. General Assembly. Positioning wise, looks pretty good. We're just going to adjust ever so slightly the position of these views. And this one's now ready. Exploded view we know is already pretty good. Now sub-assembly needed a bit of work. We've got the bill of materials in there, but we want to kind of draw a little box around our configuration so that that's clear that we're not confusing it with other things there, which means it might be best on this side over on the left, and then I can bring my standard 3 views over on the right like this. So, and my section view can stay above. That's close to the bill of materials. Again, you know, this information is all relative up the top, so it makes sense to that to be tied in together. So how I draw the lines around these 2 views here, just use the sketch tools, and I just grab the line tool. I'm just going to sketch a line that goes straight across and straight down. Let's just join it up with that point there and make that vertical, and just drag this across a little bit. It doesn't really matter where that goes. In fact, I could draw it all the way out over here if I wanted to. Let's do that, because there is a third drawing that you could put in this section. I'll just put it in. So this one is where it's no longer exploded, but it hasn't been formed yet. Okay, so I've got 3 steps there, and that works pretty well in that little section. These 2 lines, just going to increase the thickness of those, put them on the black layer. This little space is a little bit cramped, but it's okay. The B's, I can just going to click. I don't have to move this section view, it's already pretty compact. I'll just move those B's down so they're consistent and save. I'm going to go to this file and add in some custom properties. CBCO 2, revision 01, sub-assembly, yep, it's there, save. Close. All right, and then pivot pin. This layout looks pretty good. Now that my section text is a bit smaller and my arrow is a bit smaller, I'm happy with that. On this page, I want to show you how you can get it to link to the content on this page rather than the overall General Assembly file. It's very simple. First, just identify a drawing view on the page. So this one here is drawing view number 19. Now, I right click in properties, and on the sheet properties at the bottom, I'm going to uncheck same as sheet specified in document properties, and I'm going to select drawing view 19 and then press apply, and then it applies that information to this page only. Okay, and so yeah, that's how we can get that information in there. I'm going to open up this part, just adds a bit more information. So drawing number, CBCO 3, revision 01, material information's there. Again, I'll just add some of these details, apply, save, Control Tab, refresh. You can see it populates that information. Now I've also got this little material thing here. I'll just delete that. Okay, but that's how you can get on this page. It's the General Assembly related to the content of this sheet. But on my part drawing, it's related to the content of what is here, this one. All right, looking good. So more layout work. Actually, the rest of the pages now should be pretty much ready for us to do our drawings, our dimensions and annotations. Try not to use the letter I, it can be a bit hard to see. Use the letter J, just going to drag it around here. All right, very good. Okay, we are now up to our last 2 steps to finish off this drawing set. So there's 2 more things I like to teach, even though with this project, even though companies will do them in many different ways. It all depends on the industry you go into, your place of work, what kind of products you're developing, designing. If you're developing things for like the medical industry or like rocket engineering or something like really super important, you know, Formula One, all your geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, all the standards that you have to follow, you're going to have to be really particular about that and get right on top of them. I've never worked in those industries. Okay, the most complicated stuff I've designed is, you know, products for the financial sector, where, you know, they just care if stuff is secure, not whether it's to the right tolerance of 0.1. You know, if something works, it works. So in my 15 to 20 years of design experience, I've never really had to worry about the standards that much. So I'm not teaching you about that. I'm just going to show you how to put notes on a page, how to position them with your drawings, your views, and then how to dimension. And then later, you can work out what kind of dimensions you need for your industry. So 2 things I want to show you. First, view labels. View labels are these bits of text that come with your drawing views. You can add them by right-click and go to Add View Label. Press OK. Now that's added a scale 1 to 2 view label. You can double-click on that and you can change it, and we can just type in isometric. Now what's good about a view label with a drawing is that when you move that drawing view, the view label moves with it. Okay, they're tied together. So if you move it a little bit higher or off to the left or up to the side, it's going to retain its position when you move that drawing view. What I like to advocate for my students in this course is consistency. So you'll notice across a lot of these drawings, we've set it out to have like an isometric view in the top right-hand corner. We want to do the same with our text position. So our view labels, we always want to try and have them in a same relative position to our parts. So isometric view there, and on the front view here, we can go right-click, add view label, and we can say, is it going to add one? I didn't add one. There we go. This can be side view. Very good. Now I'm just going to move section view to be roughly in line with it. And then as far as view labels go, this page is looking good. We'll come back for dimensions. Now there's another way that you can add view labels. You don't have to right-click and click add view label every time. You can click on annotation and note, and then you'll see this little box with your cursor. And when you highlight or you hover over a drawing view, you'll get this pink box. Now what that means is if I drop this text here and start typing, and then I press escape, that text is linked with that drawing view, so it's going to move with it. So this here is my front view. So I can double click, I can label it front, and I can move that down into this position. Now when you do add notes, so let's say I add a note here, and this is going to be a side view, and I click off, I actually get the repeat tool. So I can just go from view to view, type, drop, click, and add all my view labels in one go. Now they're not going to be all in the exact same position, but you can very quickly go back and adjust their position to get them where you want them. Okay, so it's not a long, difficult process. Something like our exploded view here, well, I'm just going to add exploded, and then I'll show you here how we can add notes to different elements. So again, with that text box, if I hover over a face or an edge, I get an arrow for the leader, and I can click and drop, and then I can add information. So this would be an annotation for this sub-assembly. So if we just follow the notes, sub-assembly to be completed before assembling pulley. Now, a couple of tricks with the text box. Once it's done, you can resize it, and that will automatically move your text like into a different format. And then the leader itself, which is the arrow that comes from it, when you select that text box, you can control that over on the left here with the leader type. So I can make it to a bent leader, which is quite nice. I can put it to like the middle of the text or the bottom or the top. Again, that's you can set it there. Now, everything that you do here for your notes and your leaders, that can be set as a standard for the document. So you can actually go to those document properties before where we're changing the fonts, and you can change all the leaders to be like this. And that means you don't have to do it for every single note you create individually. You just do it once and it will make them all the same. I'm not too worried about doing that right now, but I do want to get this text in for both. So this one has a note: ensure text is located facing outside. Very good. Now, were there any notes on the General Assembly? No, just dimensions. And same for the bill of materials. Okay, cool. So we're on the sub-assembly page, and we're going to add some view labels. So we're going to add some for this process before. Let's just change that. Step 2, step 3. Okay, before and after only really works if there's just 2 images, but we've got 3. So just lift that up a little bit. Step 1, step 2. Step 3. We've never added a route line for this view. There is a quick way you can do that, and that is with a sketch for construction, and you can just add a construction line. Okay, it's going to look pretty much exactly the same as the other one. We're going to add some notes in for these views, as well as the other views over here. So let's go front, side. Oh. See, on that one I clicked, but I didn't get it on the box. So I'm just going to do another one, and I'll come back and delete the other one. Delete the first one that's stuffed up, and then just reposition, front, side, isometric, top. Let's add our annotations. I'm just regularly pressing Control S to save. Doing drawings is already enough of a pain that you don't want to have to do them twice. This note actually goes here, and I'm going to edit this one. All right, so I type out the text, and then I'm going to double click on the text box, just resize it, reposition it. This one can go here. I'm happy with how this is looking. Maybe it can be a little bit nicer. Let's put it there. That one looks okay. Now I can select all 3 at once by holding Control and then changing the leaders. Okay, that'll do. Don't want to get too fancy with those. Okay, so I think you get the idea now. I'm going to do the rest of the view labels, and then we'll come back to do the dimensions. All right, and we're back. So we've done a bit of formatting there to clean a lot of things up. Cleaned up our sheet formats, okay. Cleaned up a few things in the BOMs, and just got things looking a lot nicer. So hopefully enjoyed that little time lapse there. Our very last step. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful and found something new to enhance your SolidWorks skills. Don't forget to subscribe to Fully Defined for more tutorials, tips and insights from a certified SolidWorks expert. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, leave a comment below. I read all comments and love hearing your feedback. Remember, with the right skills and tools, you can turn your design dreams into reality. Keep modeling, keep learning, and always fully defined.